This is Creepy and Geeky, a part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcast Network. Welcome to Creepy and Geeky. I'm your host, Robert, and on today's episode, we're talking about Thor Ragnarok. Joining me for this episode is Ashley Thomas, a writer and podcaster who is the co-host of Podcast 616, a Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. Welcome back to the show, Ashley.
Thank you for having me back. This is, I think, the third time I've gotten to be on Creepy and Geeky. So
yeah, I think it's the third time.
Yeah. I'm catching up to how many times you've been on my show. So.
Yeah, by the time this comes out, I think I'll still only be at 4.
Maybe 5 at that point, depending.
Because I'm not sure when does the Loki series come out?
Loki starts, I think, in October. So
okay.
Yeah, so depending on your editing schedule, this may or may not be out at that point.
Yeah, I think this comes out before. Yeah, because this episode comes out October 27th. I actually think that's the same day as Loki.
Say you and Dawn of the Dead are going to be on episode.
I think
4, maybe 4 of Loki.
I think we might be on the episode that comes out that day.
Oh man. Okay, so I have almost been on your show as much as you've been on my show. Yeah. So we're neck and neck. It's okay. We ain't keeping score. It's all good.
Yeah.
October 6th is the premiere of Loki season 2.
Okay. Yeah. So I think you had asked for me to come on. Let's see. Yep. October 27th. So that's the same day this episode drops, is the same day we will be recording for that episode for Podcast 616.
Amazing how the future works.
Yeah. Very timely as well, because we're talking Thor Ragnarok and Loki.
That's right. Yeah.
So this one is one of my absolute favorite of the MCU. It is just, I don't know, the humor. I like comedy. So my favorite genre of horror is horror comedy. And so this one adds so much more comedy and makes Thor more relatable in a way than he was in the previous 2 installments. Because Thor, while his in the first movie, Odin sends him to Earth to learn what it's like to have humility and everything. He never really tries to be human. He never has to learn how to become human. Whereas in the comic book version, when he originally does that, he kind of wipes his mind, and puts him into the body of this a person called Donald Blake, and who is a human. And so he has this like memory loss as this character of Donald Blake. And so he just is human. He thinks he's human. He doesn't know that he's really Thor underneath it all. And so the character in the first 2 movies is sort of still, while he can be relatable, aspects of him can be relatable. That I think that this movie really adds to a lot of that, makes him more human in a lot of ways, gives him, kind of breaks him down, to his core, and breaks him down in a lot of ways. He loses so much in the beginning of this movie that, and that he has to build up to, but he never loses who he is. And I like that about this movie, is that no matter it breaking him down, he never really gives in to that. And that just speaks to who Thor is as a character. And that's what I guess appeals to me about this movie specifically. How do you feel about this movie?
I mean, I think that everything you've said is a pretty fair assessment of the film. I think one, I also am a fan of comedy, and I don't think I had a ton of familiarity with Taika Waititi prior to this
Mm,
film.
me neither.
And so I was really impressed with his comedy stylings that jived well with my sense of humor. I for a while, like Thor and Captain America were kind of vying for my, favorite Avenger spot.
Right.
And then Black Panther happened. I was like, nope, T'Challa wins. But I really love Thor so much. And I think part of it is because it's my knowledge of Chris Hemsworth is that he's a pretty sweet guy in real life. Uh, and so watching him play a guy who is very strong and very powerful, but at the same time kind of kind of a goofball, and but also, he can hold his own. Like his confidence is not unfounded, that sort of thing.
Right.
I like that tension in his character. And also, I mean, I'm not like, I've never been a big fan of like the trickster kind of motif, the rogue kind of
Mm.
motif. When I play D&D, I'm a war cleric because I like to hit you but also keep you in line and heal you. um so I tend to play a more lawful good character versus like a chaotic character. So
See, the tricksters are the appealing ones for me.
okay, yeah, I mean, I like them. I won't say I don't
Yeah.
like them, but and I think Tom Hiddleston is a wonderful actor, and by all accounts seems to be a wonderful human being as well. Like I, but at the same time, I'm not a fan of that type of character. So I've never been like a
Right.
huge like Loki fangirl like a lot of people are. And if you are, that's wonderful. I don't blame you at all. Tom Hiddleston is wonderful, and his portrayal of Loki is wonderful. And I'm happy that he keeps getting to show up in the MCU despite being dead. um, but everybody in this film is very charming on one level or another, and so I think that's the biggest part of the appeal of Thor Ragnarok for me. Also, again, because I am kind of a classic rock nerd, like I love the use of like classic rock music in this film, and I think
Right.
it's wonderfully appropriate, like this, immigrant song and all of that just getting used in Thor Ragnarok. I thought that was really wonderful. But what I like is like the original Thor film is kind of this understated, dramatic superhero film. Because it's directed by Kenneth Branagh, who's a Shakespearean actor and director. And
Right.
then you have Thor: The Dark World, which I am one of the 5 people on Earth that really likes Thor: The Dark World. I know some people do not care for it, and that is fine. But I think it's much better than what you think it is. Um, I don't think it's as good as Thor, but I do think it's better than what it's given credit for. Um, this one is such a complete tonal shift. Like it really showcased like what Chris Hemsworth can do as a comedian. I think he's very
Right.
funny anyway, but you really get that comedy, and I think that is very charming and it's very endearing. And you've got a whole bunch of other actors in here that can do comedy, and then of course you got Kate Blanchett, who's one of the best actors on the planet, period, full
Yeah.
stop, like playing this wonderful, like sinister villain in Hela. Like she's basically what Galadriel would be if she took the One Ring. Uh, so I love that she got to explore that kind of character, and I have lots of thoughts about Hela that we can get into later. But
Yeah, definitely.
she's just very menacing and very powerful, and then you get the addition of Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie, and man, I just have such a girl crush on Valkyrie. I just think she's so cool. Like every time she's on screen, I'm just like, I want to be your friend. I don't think I can wield a sword or ride a unicorn like you can, but I want to like hang out with you. I think you're really awesome. you know, you know. And we kind of get into that a little bit in uh Thor: Love and Thunder with her relationship with uh uh the mighty Thor, Jane
Right,
Foster
Jane.
Thor,
Yeah.
and she has this whole segment of I miss my sisters and I could use one right now. It's like, I want to be one of your sisters, Valkyrie. I want to hang with you. I want to go on adventures with you. I want to be your best buddy. Like, that is what I want out of my life. you and me, and like, is that a grenade? No, this is a Bluetooth speaker. Like, yes, let's listen to Mary J. Blige and hang out. That's what I want. Anyway, sorry, I'm all over the place.
No.
The moral of the story is, I really love Thor Ragnarok. I think it's a great time, and I'm excited to talk with you about it today.
Yeah, no. It's I think it's interesting though too, because you talk about the tonal shift in this, and that is something that either, like, most people seem to have enjoyed it to the extent that it this movie did very well, and really cemented that version of what Thor was going to be like going forward. For the most part, he's a little bit more serious in the next two Avengers movies. um well, the
With good
next
reason.
one Avenger movie, and
Yeah.
then in the second one he gets to be chubby Thor, and so you get to add a little bit more of that comedy back into it, while also keeping the pathos of the character as well. And just, so I think that's what's interesting about this movie too, is that you get that it's not comedy all the time with him. You definitely have a lot of serious moments, a lot of deeper stuff going on, but I think that tonal shift in adding in that more comedy aspect to it really helped kind of put Thor on a better path than he had been on previous to this. They had played him a little too seriously before. And I know that Chris Hemsworth himself was really wanting to add more comedy into this, because he wanted to play in that realm more, because he likes playing in that comedy vein as well. So it was good to see him actually get the chance. But I know there are some people that this version turns them off. There are some people who Thor Ragnarok is terrible to them. They don't like this movie, or the comedy aspects. They feel like he's just playing it not as good. They don't like Taika Waititi as the director and stuff. And it's interesting to hear that, because I just think that this was so good. To me, this is such a great movie. It's taking what they learned with the Guardians movies, in terms of the comedy and and breaking out the Marvel universe out into this wild, expansive universe that there is, and giving us something more, letting Thor play in the universe rather than trying to bring him down to earth, or just playing in Asgard, which is fine, but it's very limiting in a lot of ways. And so I thought that breaking it out, putting him in Sakaar, and kind of changing up a lot of stuff, taking him to the different realms and everything, just adds so much more to his universe.
Yeah, that's fascinating, because I've literally never heard that take on Thor Ragnarok. At least in the circles I run in, everybody's like, Thor Ragnarok is the best Thor movie. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to argue with that. It's pretty dang good.
I think it's the best Thor movie for sure.
I mean, yeah, I think it's definitely the one where I have the most fun, but I like them all on different levels.
Yeah.
You know, quibbles aside, like I don't ever really have a bad time watching a Marvel movie unless it's Iron Man 3, but we won't get into that on this podcast.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
That is probably my least favorite Marvel movie, and it's only because of how they did Mandarin at the very end. So yeah. But anyway, I digress. Shang-Chi did much to redeem that for me. Shang-Chi might be my favorite movie from Phase 4. So
interesting. Okay.
But that's again, that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah. So this, just getting into all of the fun stuff in this movie. I'm not going to go beat for beat or anything, but I'm just going to hit some of the things that I really enjoyed with this movie. And I want to start off with once Thor manages to get back to Asgard, and he's been gone for a while, probably since really the end of um, uh, the last Thor movie.
Right.
And because things have changed, there's this giant statue of Loki now, and Odin just seems to be kicking back, relaxing, watching this silly little play. Which the play is something that I really want to jump into, because it's so funny that we've got one of the other Hemsworth brothers
Right.
playing Thor on stage. I think
That'd
it's
be
Luke Hemsworth.
Yeah, I thought it was Liam. Maybe it's Luke.
No, Liam is the younger brother that was in the um Hunger Games movies.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize. I knew there was another Hemsworth brother, but I was under the impression it was Liam pretending to be Thor. My
Oh,
bad.
no. Yeah. No,
My
there's a
bad.
third one that is also an actor. He was on
Luke
the first
Hemsworth.
season of
Yes, you are
the
correct.
first season of Westworld as well. So.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Mm-hmm.
So, and then Matt Damon is playing Loki in the play, which is hilarious because this is the second time he's played a character named Loki.
Mm-hmm.
The first time was in the Kevin Smith movie Dogma.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I have only seen like Clerks, and that might be it for my Kevin Smith movies. I'm sorry. I I feel like maybe there's one more, but I don't remember what it is. But anyway, but no, I have not seen Dogma. I didn't realize he was in that.
Oh yeah, he's one of the main characters in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mainly know that Alanis Morissette is God in that movie, but voiced by Alan Rickman. That's the only thing I really know about that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's hard to track down, so but if you ever do get a chance to watch it, it's funny.
Yeah. I'll
But
fill in all the blanks in my Kevin Smith repertoire at some point in the near future.
yeah, and then you can go back and listen to all the episodes that I did on him.
There
So
you go. Fair enough.
but yeah, no, I just think it's funny. They're overplaying everything. Obviously, Loki seems to have written the play because as Odin, he is reciting the lines before they're played, before they're said. So it's so funny. What is it? Sam Neill plays Odin on stage. So great. I love that somebody like Sam Neill's up there.
I love Sam Neill.
And just yeah, and it's such a weird small role, but I love that both Matt Damon and Sam Neill are willing to play into that.
Oh, for sure.
And I'll talk more about it in a future episode, but I love that they kind of redo this later on in Thor Love and Thunder.
Right.
So it's
with the addition of Melissa McCarthy as as Hela, which I love. Yeah. I love Melissa McCarthy so much. And you know what? If you're gonna get somebody else to portray a Kate Blanchett character, Melissa McCarthy is who immediately comes to mind, right? Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. I love that.
No, it's much. Great. I love her too. So
she's so fun. She's so fun.
But yeah. So I found the whole play thing to be hilarious just for all those little aspects of it. I think it's funny, Thor tells Sif to go find help and she just goes screaming off like a helpless maiden or anything. And it's so obvious that just, again, Loki's writing this just to be like, just to stick it to all of them. It's just and to play up his role in saving Asgard. And this just goes really into Anthony Hopkins' performance as well in this. He is so good at pretending to be Loki, pretending to be him.
Right.
Rather than, playing up the way he normally plays it, he gets to play this extra layer in there. And it's so good. Anthony Hopkins, great actor. I love him. And especially when he gets to play stuff like this, where he's getting to have a little bit more fun. And actually, I think he retired from acting for a little bit, but came back to do this. I could be wrong, I'd have to look that up, but
yeah,
I know he hasn't done a lot. So
yeah, and not too long ago, he was quoted in an article saying that he didn't feel like the uh, Marvel movies were like anything real big deal because basically it was him like in front of a green screen, so he didn't feel like he really actually got to act. He didn't feel like it
right.
was a real job. And I'm like, bro, seriously, I mean, sorry, things that aren't Marvel movies are done in front of green screen. And
Right.
it's I don't think just because you're doing a lot of your job in front of a green screen doesn't mean that it lets you off the hook to
Right.
you know do your job well or phone it in. And I don't think he does in this, but it's
No,
it's
no.
it's definitely a different skill than acting on like an actual set
Right.
or on location somewhere or whatever.
And I get that in a lot of ways that makes it
Yeah.
harder,
Mm-hmm.
because you
Mm-hmm.
are having to, adjust for, things that are probably not there. You're having to look
Mm-hmm.
at things
Mm-hmm.
that aren't there, or, things in the background or whatever. And so I get that. It's definitely harder, but I think that also is challenging as an actor. I think as an actor that you would find that challenging in itself in having to not only inhabit this character, but you're also having to inhabit the scene and imagine what it is in that
Mm-hmm.
scene. And so, as an actor, I,
You're gonna have to pretend
I don't
even
know what it's
harder.
like. Yeah, you have to pretend it even harder. I just think
Yeah.
that as an actor, that would add an extra challenge, a layer of challenge to it that would be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's obvious that he enjoyed playing the role. He could have said no.
Right.
Um, but he obviously said, hey, let me come back one more time, and have it. And I think that in a lot of ways, his character is interesting in the first two movies, but I think he's even more interesting in this one, even though it's, I think, a smaller role.
Right. Right. It's
And
definitely a
but
more abbreviated role, and
yeah,
yet it's
but
still
it's deeper.
very, yeah, it's
Yeah,
deeper, it's more emotionally poignant. It is um he has to do a lot with a little bit of screen time, and I think he succeeds at that, even if he only had to be in front of a green screen.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, and and I think that's what, he has a lot of fun in the scenes. And I think um that's evident.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he came back for it, even for the small role that it is. And I like that it sets off everything else that is to come.
Mm-hmm.
That his death kind of
Right.
jumpstarts everything.
Right. Yeah,
But
definitely agree with that assessment.
but talking about, because once Thor realizes, oh, this is actually Loki in disguise, and once they go to Earth to go get Odin from the nursing home that Loki has placed him in,
Mm-hmm.
um which would have been fun to see, like, a scene or two of Odin just puttering around a nursing home, just
Right.
thinking he was human this whole time. That would have been kind of a fun, a fun little bit. But I really enjoy the relationship that Thor and Loki have in this one, because in the last two, like, they've been building it, I think, building their relationship better and better each time they're together. But I
Yeah.
think this one really gets it. Gets the that they love each other, but they also have this antagonism towards each other. Um, and that, especially on Loki's part, Loki has always felt inferior to Thor,
Mm-hmm.
and and that kind of plays into the reason why Loki's kind of done everything that he's done. Um,
Sure.
and so it's good to see them kind of having these more brotherly moments than they've had in the past.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I
yeah,
I I agree. And uh so you see the there's still a bit of antagonism there. There's still some
right
frustration. There's still some animosity. But there's also yeah, you pulled one over on me, and that was it's kind of funny in retrospect, like the when he tells the
right
story about
about the
Loki,
snake.
about the snake. That is
Yeah,
one of the funniest moments in the MCU as far as I'm concerned. Like I laugh hysterically because I think about Chris Hemsworth being like, "Oh, it's a snake! How wonderful! I'm gonna pick it up and admire it." And all of a sudden, like
yeah,
it's Loki. It's scary. It's terrifying. Um, it's a snake, and like I love like looking at snakes in the zoo. I like looking at snakes when other people are holding them. But if people aren't holding them, they need to be behind glass so I can admire them. Like if there's one running loose outside, I'm gonna run inside the house and lock the door.
right.
You know, so it's that kind of thing where like I like to admire them. I think they're beautiful creatures, but I don't want to hold one. I don't want one slithering loose near me. That's what, are you crazy? That's nuts.
Yeah,
So anyway, I love like the dynamic they have there where it really feels like a real like sibling dynamic where uh and like I love how the whole, well, he's adopted sort of thing gets turned on its head.
right.
I think, was it in Avengers where Thor's like, "Oh, Loki's behind this," and they're like, "Isn't that your brother?" It's like, he's adopted.
Yeah,
And then here Loki's like, "Yes, I'm adopted," or whatever. Yes, Thor's an idiot. I'm adopted. It's fine. I love that got turned on its head there. So anyway, it's they have a really wonderful dynamic, and I think you couldn't have that if you had actors of a lesser caliber than Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston. So
yeah.
yeah.
No, I agree. Their relationship is really good, and I love that. I too love that scene where he's talking about Loki becoming a snake, everything. There's he's when he's telling that story, he makes that sound like yeah, and you get the real reactions on their faces because they were not expecting that. I think the story is actually somewhat ad-libbed. Also, I think they
Oh, really?
ran through a couple of scenes. I was trying to look it up, but so I think they did a couple of takes on that with different stories, and so they ended up using that one. Um, which
Okay.
I thought was hilarious because it's such a good little scene there, and it just goes to, like we said, that nature of their relationship, of how Loki was always being the trickster, and and just doing these things to mess with Thor. And Thor has always just been, Thor has always kind of loved Loki in that way that some siblings do. They just,
Right.
no matter how terrible you are to them or to anybody else, they always see the good in them,
Right.
and hope that one day, and he says it, he hopes that someday he would rise to it. But Loki will always be Loki, and he'll always try to um do what's best for him, and he does that. And in that moment, a little bit later, Thor gets one over on him because Loki is a static character at that point. He hasn't changed much. He hasn't grown enough
Mm-hmm.
to get out of that cycle that he's in. But Thor has grown enough to understand that as much as he wants Loki to change and be better, at this point, Loki's not going to.
Right.
And so he needs to do what he needs to do to, protect himself and others. So I did think that was a fun little uh, exchange there at the end, so that they
Yeah.
could uh, that Thor got one over. Especially I like the get help bit too.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Get help is so
yeah,
wonderful.
and it's such a good thing because it's like Loki's like, it's not fun for me. He's like, yeah, well, it's fun for me. um,
Yeah.
and he ends up doing it. And then later on, like towards the end, they're contemplating what they're gonna do to um uh to get to take on Hela, and they're trying to come up with a plan, and Loki turns to him and goes, "We're not doing get help." So, so I love
Yep.
that part.
Get help is definitely a highlight of the film for sure.
Yeah. So real quick, I wanted to talk about one of the best parts of this movie. While Hela is the a really good villain, and we'll get back to her and everything like that, we also have Jeff Goldblum as the
Oh,
Grandmaster.
so wonderful. I just love Jeff Goldblum in anything. He's just a delight.
Oh,
Even in like
definitely.
stuff before like everybody really knew him as Jeff Goldblum. Like I watched a few years ago, I watched a TV movie he did. It was like a new interpretation of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and he was Ichabod Crane.
Okay. Interesting.
It's on YouTube somewhere. I'll see if I can find it and I'll send you the link. But it's worth checking out because it completely like turns that story on its head, and he's just delightful as Ichabod Crane in that movie. And it's so different. Like, I mean, this was like early 80s. This was before he was in The Fly. This is before Jurassic Park. This was before, the things that he's mainly known for now. These iconic genre films. And he's just, he was just like a little no-name guy doing a TV movie about Sleepy Hollow. And
That's
so
funny.
I watched it one Halloween because that's one of my favorite stories and love reading and watching it this time of year. So anyway, it was fun to Jeff Goldblum, he's just so like charming and wonderful in everything that he's in, even if it's in a lesser, more obscure role. And so having him show up in a Marvel movie where he's just chewing every ounce of scenery that's in front of him is just a real treat to watch. He's just so fun. And I really like the gal who plays Topaz. Basically his axe woman. I blanking on the actress's name. I'm gonna go look because it's gonna bother me if I don't tell you her name. Gal who plays Topaz is Rachel House. Who she plays Grandma Tala in Moana.
Okay.
Yeah. So, which is interesting because she doesn't look nearly old enough to be a grandma at all. But
she's a couple years older than me.
Yeah.
And, I'm a grandfather, so
okay. Well, I still don't feel like you're old enough to be a grandpa. Anyway, she's a New Zealand actress. Does a lot of voiceover work, does a lot of genre work. She's in Foundation, which I have not watched yet. Has some she's gonna be in a remake of Time Bandits. What?
Interesting.
And then Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire in 2024. So cool. She does a lot of genre work, but I think she's a lot of fun as Topaz. Yeah. I really enjoy her. What's that B word she is? For him. Oh yeah. What's that B word you call Valkyrie? Booze hound?
Booze hag.
Booze hag? Yeah, booze hag. That's what it is. A booze hag. Oh, anyway. Fun.
Yeah. No, I like Jeff Goldblum is an actor who I've gained more appreciation for over the years. Like I wasn't a huge fan of his kind of back in the day. But like I said, within the last, I'd say 10, 15 years, even when I watched Jurassic Park originally, I wasn't like, I was like, okay, yeah, he's okay in this, whatever. But I was never like a big fan. But like over the years, he's got like I've gotten more and more interested in his like eccentric way of acting. And I love that he basically gets to just play versions of himself. Which is really cool.
No, I love that.
Yeah. And he does such a good job as the Grandmaster. I think it's interesting. But this goes into something that I definitely wanted to mention on here because his character of the Grandmaster is in the comic books, is part of a group of characters called the Elders of the Universe.
Ooh, tell me more because
And
I don't know anything about
basically,
that.
yeah. So basically, what it is a when a person becomes the last member of their planet,
Mm-hmm.
um, they they then get imbued with immortality, and become an elder of the universe. Um, so that way, there's still somebody from their race still alive,
Mm-hmm.
and getting to, possibly uh, uh, tell their story or whatever. So there's a group of them, and we've met two of them so far in the MCU, the Grandmaster and the Collector,
Oh, okay.
from the Guardians movie,
Got
the
you.
first
Okay.
Guardians movie. So those are two of them, and it's interesting too because in the comic books, when Thanos was gathering the Infinity Gems, because they were gems in the comics, not stones. When he was gathering the Infinity Gems in the comic books, he actually had to go to several of the elders who had them, and had to do what he needed to do to get them from them. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm pretty sure the Collector and the Grandmaster were two of the uh, uh, elders that he needed to get them from. So it was interesting seeing him in this and not being a part of that, and them not really talking about the elders of the universe. Although he does make that mention of, how time works differently in on Sakaar, and anywhere else he'd be millions of years old. So it was an interesting little nod to the history of the character itself without getting fully deep into the history and lore of all of that. So, but
That's really cool. And
yeah,
one of the things that the more I learn about characters that might be a background character in the MCU, the fact that they have comic book roots and that the MCU has done a good job of translating them and making them accessible for just a viewing audience, I think is really cool.
right,
It shows like a little bit of creativity on their part, but also like what can we keep of the character to make the spirit of the character the same as it is in the comic without necessarily like copy paste the backstory. Because I mean, unfortunately, just because of the nature of film and television, you can't just do that with just every single character,
right.
So I think
No,
that works really well with the Grandmaster and the Collector, as you said.
yeah, no, and they keep the core of who they are,
Mm-hmm.
in these stories. The and it plays differently in the comic books as well. So this whole Sakaar storyline with the Hulk being a gladiator and stuff like that, it's part of a whole storyline in the Hulk comic books that was called Planet Hulk.
I was about to say I have seen the Planet Hulk cartoon. I've never read the Planet
Yeah.
Hulk arc in the
So the
comics.
Planet
So
Hulk cartoon, I think, is closer to what the comic books,
right.
closer to the comic books than the movie obviously is,
Mm-hmm.
because in the comic books, the Hulk is removed from Earth by Reed Richards, and I believe it's the group of the Illuminati, which is Reed,
Right.
Tony, and a couple of the other people, Professor Xavier.
Right.
Um, so they remove him off planet, and just to kind of keep him out of the way, in the lead up to what becomes Civil War in the comic books. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why Hulk isn't around during the entirety of the Civil War storyline. And so
Right.
in that one, he lands on this planet and becomes enslaved to the boss there. It's not the Grandmaster in this storyline. It's some other character
Mm-hmm.
that I can't recall at the moment. But he does meet Korg and Meek in that. So there is these other characters that are in this movie that you get, um, characters that kind of are part of this. The Silver Surfer is a part of it at one point.
Mm-hmm.
He becomes one of the gladiators. Thor is not a part of the Planet Hulk storyline at all. So they're just kind of throwing the Planet Hulk storyline into this movie to kind of give Thor something to do in that world, but also trying to expand on the Hulk storyline, since he doesn't get a whole lot to do in most of the movies, which I appreciated that they included a good amount of Hulk stuff into this movie. Balancing all of that is crazy how they managed to balance all of this and make a good story as well. It's
Right.
fascinating.
Right. And I think the nice side effect of this is that you also get some character development for Hulk.
Right.
And I think a big part of that is because Universal still has the rights for the
Yeah.
Hulk character because of the 2003 and the 2008 Hulk movies. Those were made before the Disney buyout of Marvel.
Right.
Uh, so though they can't make a solo Hulk movie.
Right.
And
Right.
so that's why you have like Hulk playing a larger role in things like Thor Ragnarok and in the She-Hulk series. So
Right.
you're getting your Hulk character development there.
Yeah.
Whereas
True.
in under normal circumstances, you would have a solo Hulk film.
Right. Right.
Right.
And I think they just recently, just within the past few months, I think they finally got those rights
Oh,
back.
have they? Okay, I hadn't heard
Yeah,
that. Okay.
I think so. I read something about it recently that those rights had possibly reverted back to them.
I
So they
mean,
might be able to do that.
I mean,
So
I was just realizing that the 2003 Hulk film is now 20 years old, which I need to go sign up for AARP apparently, because I love that movie so much. I saw it in the theater. But yeah, dang. Wow, I guess maybe they
yeah,
would have reverted back by now because like that was
yeah.
20 years ago.
Well, and it just depends on if, like, if Universal has ever, done anything with it. I'm sure they could have kept their option open on it if they had ever made a movie, but I don't think they really ever considered doing it. So, which
Yeah,
is fine. I mean, I think Marvel's been doing a good job with the character, and
sure.
trying to have a competing character for it might have been a little weird.
Right.
Um, or competing version of the character.
Sure.
Which I think is what Sony's been smart to do with Spider-Man in that way, is like let Marvel, play around with it, while they still own the rights to Spider-Man,
Right.
in the movie areas that but at least let Marvel play around with it and
Of
let it
course.
interact with the MCU.
Yeah, and
It works out better for both of them in the long run.
oh, for sure. And then I mean, gosh, you got Tom Holland. Like I I love the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. I do not love Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, mostly because
Thank
I was
you.
oh, so you are not the I'm not the
I
only
am
person on the planet that shares this opinion?
No, I
Okay.
and I thought I was the only person on the planet who
Okay.
didn't
I
care for Tobey Maguire as
bro,
Spider-Man.
I can't believe we have
So
not had this conversation before. But like because I was a junior in high school when the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie came out.
right.
That was summer after my junior year of high school. And Spider-Man is one of my all-time favorite Marvel characters. I was so excited for a live action Spider-Man movie. I go and watch it and I'm like, that is a 25-year-old man. That man is not in high school. Like, and I could not take him seriously at all. Now, I thought the movie was a whole lot of fun. And I thought
Yeah.
it was a great like superhero film. But I have never been able to take Tobey Maguire seriously as Spider-Man. Now I will say Far From Home or No Way Home did a lot to redeem that.
Yeah.
But prior to Tom Holland, Andrew, I held the unpopular opinion that Andrew Garfield was the superior Spider-Man,
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I was the
even though
same.
he was technically the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, yeah,
I thought he was a superior Peter Parker and
yeah.
Spider-Man. So
I
anyway,
think that Tom Holland is the best, and that
oh yeah,
Andrew Garfield was a very good Spider-Man, but not a very good Peter Parker. He played Peter
mm,
Parker as being like angsty and cool in a way,
mm-hmm.
um, which doesn't fit Peter Parker really. And Tobey Maguire just never fit for me at all as Spider-Man or Peter Parker. Like you said, he always felt older,
Mm-hmm.
and um his build was so different because he's more stocky,
Right,
that I couldn't take him seriously. With Garfield was taller and skinny,
right,
and Tom Holland is short, but he's also skinny.
right.
And so, it worked better with their frames than it did with Tobey Maguire. And I just like I like Tobey Maguire as an actor. I think he's a really good actor, and I think overall the movies are great. I'm a big Sam Raimi fan. But the movies, but him being in it just kind of really takes me out of it. And plus,
Right.
Kirsten Dunst, again, another person I really like as an actress. I couldn't take her seriously as Mary Jane because she was not Mary Jane to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is just it both of them being like the major characters, and it just kind of really threw everything out of whack for me. And
Yeah.
they're just not my favorites. The Tom Holland, hands down, my favorite Spider-Man, and
Oh,
his
for sure.
movies were my favorite of the Spider-Man movies.
For sure, for
So,
sure. And
but that's a whole other discussion.
that's again, that's a podcast for another day. It's a podcast for another
Exactly.
day. I was going to say something related to those
Yeah.
Spider-Man movies, and hmm, I don't remember now what it was.
Oh no.
Well, I guess it was more of a now again. I think I to give him full credit. I think I need to go and watch a little more of his back catalog, but at least when those Spider-Man films were coming, like the original like 2002 Spider-Man films were coming out, um, Tobey Maguire was kind of hot stuff back in the olden days.
Yeah.
So I remember thinking he was really attractive or whatever, but I would watch those like this man has three facial expressions. I mean to be fair, like one of them is ugly cry to the extent that it became a meme, but
Yeah. Yeah.
like the other facial expressions, they're all under a mask, so I guess it's okay. But I think that kind of lent itself to me not liking him as much as an actor in that
Right.
role because I mean the best part about Spider-Man is he's a smartass.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's
Yeah, and
mouthing
that was an
yeah,
aspect that I just did Toby didn't do as well with
right,
was the smart ass Spider-Man. The
right.
guy
You
who
got
needles everybody
oh for
and
sure.
and Garfield did it much better, and then
Mm-hmm.
Tom Holland just nails everything. Just
Yeah.
Tom
Tom Holland
Holland
is
managed
the best all around.
yeah, he just manages to do everything all around. Best Peter Parker, best Spider-Man, yeah, just all of it. And so
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
hands down, he'll always be my favorite.
For sure, for sure. Hey, but again,
But
this is not a
yeah, but back
Spider-Man
to Thor
podcast, but back
Ragnarok.
to Thor Ragnarok. How did we get off
But
on that? I'm
I
sorry.
because we were talking about the Hulk and the difference, the different
Yeah,
universe
yeah.
versions of the Hulk. But yeah,
Fair.
so but yeah, no, I really enjoy the Hulk in this. It's really cool to see him as the Hulk, getting to kind of just be like this hero in a way,
Mm,
to be the champion of this, even if it's not the greatest way, but he's not hated and feared. He's being celebrated and loved by everybody, and so I think that's an interesting experience for him. But at the detriment of Banner, who's been locked inside for 2 years.
mhm.
And so but which makes an interesting story when Banner finally is able to change back to him, and discovers that it's now been 2 years, and you know and everything else that's been going on, and refuses at first to change back into the Hulk. So
Mhm,
I
mhm.
think it just there's so much that this sets up, for future storylines with the Hulk that comes more into play in the next two Avengers movies. So
Yeah. I think that's all a good assessment of that. Don't have
um
much more to add to that.
but I love the battle scene between him and Thor as well, because it just shows that, and we've seen it before, him and Thor battling each other and them pretty much going toe to toe, that Thor can handle himself, and Thor very nearly beats him. If it weren't for the Grandmaster, um, you at the end of that fight taking Thor down, I think that Thor could have potentially have beaten. He was getting up on him
Yeah.
pretty handily there. Now Hulk doesn't usually lose, because Hulk, the madder he gets, the stronger he gets. So it's the likelihood of Hulk really losing is pretty slim. So
Right. Yeah, and one that scene is really fun to watch, but um Do you know the story behind the line? Oh, is he's a friend from work?
Yeah, I was a Make-A-Wish kid. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Make a Wish
Yeah,
kid
which I
got to.
love.
I thought that was such a sweet thing for them to include in the film. But
Yeah.
for those of you who may not be in the know, there was a Make a Wish kid who he wanted to meet Thor or meet Hulk, one of the two. So he got to go on set, and he's like, "Oh, when you see Thor, you should say, "Oh, he's a friend from work." And they all thought that was so funny that it
Yeah.
got added to the film.
Yeah, and got added to all the major marketing as well. So,
Oh, for
yeah.
sure. And because
So
it's
I mean,
hilarious.
it's
It's
a huge
wonderful.
applause line. Like that
Such
kid was straight on genius right there for
Oh
that line.
yeah,
So,
brilliant young man. Well done to you. That was I mean, it's still it makes me laugh every time. he's he's a friend from
yeah.
work. Oh, I
No, this
love
is
that.
really great. Yeah,
Yeah.
no. And I know that a lot of people have issues with the disc that uh Valkyrie puts on him that zaps him, because they're like, how can a guy who controls electricity be taken down by what's essentially a taser? Um and I would argue, just because we think it's a taser because it makes the sounds and stuff like that and kind of acts like that doesn't mean it's necessarily actually zapping him with electricity. It could be doing something else to him that we're not knowing. Now, that's my excuse for that. I'm
Right.
just going to say that because, like, obviously, if it was electricity, he probably wouldn't be taken down like that. But again, at the same time, it's something that's invading his system. And even if it is electricity, it may be invading his system in a way that, you know, is able to take him down. So,
Well,
that's my little niggle on that one.
I will say that I was just really into the movie, and that thought never crossed my mind once. So,
Yeah, I didn't care like when watching it, but it was like later on people were talking about. I'm like, come on, people, just have fun with the movie, just enjoy it.
shh, let people enjoy things.
Right.
Yep.
But speaking of Valkyrie,
Mhm.
she's such a great character. But it's
Love
interesting
her.
because she's a character that didn't exist in the comic books. They have
Really?
since, yeah. The version of Valkyrie that's in the comic books is a blonde woman named Brunhilde. And so she
Which
was
I mean, that kind of lines up with Norse mythology, doesn't it?
right.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
she's actually in the movie. She's the one that this Valkyrie is trying to save that gets stabbed in the back. Or that's trying to save
Oh,
her
got you. Okay.
that is stabbed in the back. Um and so and in the comic books the Valkyrie are basically kind of they are the like warrior women
Hmm.
that take the souls of the warriors to Valhalla.
Hmm.
So that's kind of their job. They're also warriors themselves.
Hmm.
Obviously, like I said, warrior women. And um, so it was interesting that they didn't go with that and they decided to go with a different route. Now the character's kind of been introduced in the comic books since then, since the movies come out. So they've introduced a version of the character in there. So
Got you.
which is cool.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, but Tessa Thompson, she's such a great actress and does such a good
Hmm.
job. I thought, because she's using an accent in this, I totally thought she was British this whole time. She's not.
Nope.
She's just doing a British accent. I was like, wow, she's really good at that. So
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
Have you seen Sorry to Bother You?
No, it's on my list.
Oh,
I
it's
definitely want to see
so
that.
good. She's in that
Yeah,
too. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No,
yeah.
and you know what? She puts on an accent in a lot of things. Like she has
She
like
does.
a little bit of a different accent in Creed, which I only watched a few months back. So,
Okay.
but yeah, she puts on a little bit of an accent in Creed, and you see, where is she from? She is from California. Well,
Yeah.
you could have fooled me. I thought she was from Philly in Creed.
Well, I
Uh,
think it's funny too because she later on plays again with Chris Hemsworth in Men in Black International.
I never
Um,
got to see that, and I was like,
oh
"Oh,
yeah,
it's Thor and Valkyrie, but make it Men in Black." That sounds so
yeah,
fun.
yeah, and they're a team, so it's funny.
Right.
So
Oh.
Yeah, no, she's really good in this, and I enjoy her character, and it's good to see her continuing on in the next Thor movie and in the Avengers movie in Endgame stuff. So it's really good to see them continuing the character.
Yeah, I need to get a Valkyrie Funko Pop or action figure or something for my desk. My
Yeah.
all of the action figures on my desk, which at this point I need to get a bigger desk. But Mr. Nerdy Blogger comes in, he looks at my office and he looks at my desk. He's like, all of you and all of your women with weapons. And I'm like, yes. That is every single one of my action figures, with the exception of like Captain Janeway. She
That's
doesn't
funny.
even have a phaser. She has a cup of coffee. But anyway, I need a Valkyrie for my desk because every time she shows up, I'm just like, oh, Valkyrie is so cool. I want to hang out with Valkyrie. Oh.
That's too funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, yeah, she's a really great addition. I think
Yeah.
it's really cool. But let's talk about Hela, because
Oh my
Hela, played by the
gosh.
great Kate Blanchett,
Oh man.
who took the job because her kid wanted her to.
Yeah,
So
that's right. I'd forgotten about that. You're right.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so which is great. I love when a an actor ends up playing like an iconic role like this that is just like because their kid wanted them to, or because they wanted to make a movie that their kids could watch. Like it's somebody who's done
Right.
like more like I don't know R-rated material, and then
Mm-hmm.
they go back and do a kids movie or something so that their kids can watch it.
Right, right,
So
right.
I always love when
Yeah.
they do that. So
Yeah, yeah. No, I love Kate Blanchett. I've had a girl crush on Kate Blanchett since the Lord of the Rings films came out. And I was just like, oh,
yeah.
this like she's just so like majestic and like one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life. I just man, I just want to be her. And I, I can't do that. I'm not that tall. But I so there's one thing that I have to say about Hela that I've
Okay.
not seen anywhere else. And I don't know if this is just a me thing noticing it. And I don't even know why this is a thing that I'm noticing because historically speaking, most of my adult life I've had short hair. But
Okay.
every time I watch her like move her hands back over her head and then all of her horns, like her horn
Mm-hmm.
headdress, shows up, to me that feels like a lady saying, I'm done with this shit. I'm pulling my hair back and I'm going to go kick some
Right.
ass. And I'm like, I have not seen anybody else make that observation. So if you have, please talk to me because I can't believe I am the only person that has noticed that.
That's funny.
uh,
Yeah, no, I mean,
but
yeah,
she's
it's a
like,
good observation.
I'm done with you. I mean, this to me, this is like the supervillain equivalent of pulling your hair back and going to go like roll up your sleeves and kick some butt.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
But
no.
I every time she does that, I'm just like, that's like her pulling her hair back and saying, "Get out of my way! I got stuff to do." Love it.
Yeah. No, it's great. She does such good job in this role. And I love that
Mm-hmm.
they actually, do the headdress. Like, anytime she's gonna battle, she like, she's like, okay, all
Mm-hmm.
right, time for the putting on the horns. And so
Mm-hmm.
and it's great that they did that because there's so many times where they modify a character and then they don't look like the comic book version, and it's fine. I totally understand they got to make it realistic to an extent. They got to make it easy for the actor to move around and stuff like that. So you're going to have to modify costumes, and plus some costumes just look really dumb if you try to make them comic book accurate.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, those horns, like the headdress, you had to have that, and it had to look like that, just so that it, because in the comic books is just so iconic of a look that I'm glad they managed to pull it off in live action.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And so I am friends with a bunch of cosplayers. You can follow my friend Super Daft Bros on Instagram. But he helps make he 3D prints like props and
Okay.
designs things with like LEDs and like all sorts of other stuff for my friends who cosplay. But my friend Whitney cosplayed Hela at Dragon Con and GalaxyCon in Raleigh a few years ago, and my friend Ian, Super Daft Bros, he somehow I think the things he does are just like, as far as I'm concerned, he's a wizard. But he made that headdress for her, and it's so huge. And
Oh yeah.
like I'm just in awe every time I see pictures. I was like, can you walk through a door like just straight? Do you have to turn sideways like to get
Right.
through it? Because that thing is monstrous, and so I mean, I am going to assume a lot of that is, CGI'd on, but
Oh yeah, probably.
I mean, is there a headdress existing somewhere that Kate Blanchett actually wore? I really hope so.
Yeah, I really hope so too. Yeah,
Because
that'd be cool.
that's fun. That is
Yeah,
fun.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that she's really good in the role. I think it's interesting though because they did change the nature of the
Mm.
character for the movie.
Okay.
In the movie,
Tell
of
me a
course,
little more
she
about that. Yeah, because
yeah,
that
of
again,
course.
that's a thing I don't know.
So in the movie, of course, she is she's Thor's older sister,
Mm-hmm.
Odin's firstborn. Uh, but in the comic books, she's actually, and I believe also in the original Norse myths, she's actually Loki's daughter.
Oh,
Yes, and Fenris the wolf is also a child of Loki.
okay.
So yeah,
I think I knew that about Fenris. I don't think I knew that about Hela.
yeah, and so it's a little twist on that. Thor does have an older sister in the comic books now. Her name is Angela.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that character herself has a complicated history because she was originally created by Neil Gaiman
Oh.
for the Spawn comic book.
Oh.
He did a guest writing job on that, and he created the character for his issue. And then he later was able to get he retained the rights to the character and was able to bring it over to Marvel, and then I guess gave them the rights to the character. It's it's a complicated stuff. It also involves the rights to the character Miracle Man and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's a character originally created for by Neil Gaiman for the Spawn comic book, and then eventually got brought over to Marvel and has now been folded into the Thor world, and she is Thor's older sister, who was taken, and by the 10th realm. There's a 10th realm in the comic books now, the realm of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was taken by these
thus
angels.
Angela versus Hela, who's evil.
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah. So they kind of twisted a few things around, probably made it a little bit more, a little less complicated for general audiences. It was just easier to call Hela Thor's sister instead of Loki's daughter, and make it overly weirdly complicated.
Right.
So that part of it was interesting, and she rules over in the comic books. She rules over the land of hell, which is where the bad Norse the bad Norse souls go. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, so it's interesting how they twisted it to make it different and everything, but I like what they did with it. It made the character interesting in a way that and different for the movie version, so that it was more fun for that, and played into the nature of Ragnarok and how her power, like, she gets more powerful the longer she's in contact with Asgard. So I thought that was it was an interesting way, especially because as a character, and we previously talked about this on the Guardians of Galaxy Volume 2 episode, that Ego is this character who's really powerful, and so Hela's really powerful too, and she's almost unstoppable. The only way to stop her is to destroy Asgard. Right. And they have to make that choice at the end of this, using Surtur, who we met in the beginning of the movie, and giving him imbuing Surtur with all the power of the eternal flame to take out Asgard and to destroy Hela before she basically destroys what's left of Asgard, the people, not the planet. So I think it's it's interesting that they have to to make that choice, and I think that's what makes her interesting as a villain, because when these characters are fighting people, these villains and stuff like that, I always like it when the villain is really powerful and you have to not necessarily sacrifice something, but you have to um do things that in this instance where they do have to sacrifice their planet to destroy her. That I think that's more interesting than just a normal guy who they can dispatch easily.
Right.
So I think it makes the stakes higher.
Yeah, yeah. Also, want to give a quick shout out to Clancy Brown, who is the voice of
Excellent.
Surtur.
Yes.
Love Clancy Brown and just anything
Love
he shows
him.
up in.
Yeah.
But for you younger audiences, that's Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob.
Yes. And for your older audiences, that's the Kurgan from the Highlander movie.
There you go. There you go. And for you in between sort of folks, he was the OG sheriff on Sleepy Hollow.
And for you other middle grounders, he's the head guard in the Shawshank Redemption.
Yes, Captain Hadley. Oh, 6 degrees of Clancy Brown.
Yeah. Oh no, Clancy Brown, man, he's been everywhere, and I love it. He's such a good actor. So it's always good.
He's in Ahsoka. I forgot he was in Ahsoka.
Yeah,
he's in the first episode.
He's the first episode, but he's playing a character he played in an earlier episode of Rebels. So
is he? Okay,
he's playing the older version of that character now.
Shoot, I need to go back and finish Rebels. I only got through like
and he's actually in an episode of The Mandalorian as well.
Is he? I don't know. Yeah. Dang. Oh, different character in that though, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Dang. I just love Clancy
Brown. And he voiced another character. Yeah, and he voiced another character in the Clone Wars. He played Darth Maul's brother, Savage Opress.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. All right. He's been all over the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, dang. Yeah, but Clancy Brown, just he's a wonderful actor. He does a lot of voice work.
Yes. So good.
Just a great character actor.
Loves doing genre work.
Oh yeah, for sure. Good chance, no matter your preferred fandom, if you like Star Wars, if you like horror, if you like Marvel, I'm pretty sure he's done some Star Trek as well. Like he shows up.
Yeah, he's pretty much everywhere. Yeah, no, he's excellent in this. He plays Surtur. It's small role, but it's very good.
So, oh yeah, and he
very pivotal.
He does that right amount of like menacing, but also like a little bit of comedy with it too.
Yes.
Which is quite fun. I really enjoy him in that role. Just enjoy him in general. I think he's wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the last things I want to mention is Korg. Which is Thor's new friend, one of the gladiators in Sakaar, and it's obviously played by Taika Waititi, the director, right. Which I think is great because Taika is also an actor himself. So it's great to put yourself in, and I think Korg's a great character. I know that people don't like him as much in the next movie in Love and Thunder, because he's a little bit more silly in that one. But I don't know, I like him. I don't have the problem with Love and Thunder that a lot of people do.
Right. Same. Though I will say I noticed a bit of a discrepancy, and I think it can maybe you can maybe work around it a little bit with some I guess headcanoning or whatever, but Korg in Thor Ragnarok makes mention of his mom and her boyfriend, who he hated him anyway or whatever.
Right.
And then you have in Love and Thunder, he talks about his two dads. So,
interesting.
yeah. So I'm like, well, like, I guess this maybe, again,
I
I
mean, if
don't
the
know.
mom has a boyfriend, then
You're
maybe the
right, right.
dad,
Yeah,
went off and
maybe, yeah.
got together with another guy.
Yeah, yeah. So, and maybe
That
this is a
works.
divorce type situation. So, yes, so you can
Exactly.
headcanon around it, but I'm like, are we not gonna like I was just real confused. Like, is this like an afterthought, or what?
Right.
Where is the connective tissue? Marvel is usually a little bit better about that sort of thing. So that was just something that I
Right.
caught on this watch. I was like, wait a minute. But that I had totally forgotten about when I watched Love and Thunder the first time. So
Right.
anyway, just a complete aside, is not relevant to what we're discussing, but it was something that stuck out to me, and it bugged me enough to where, like, I wonder if anybody else has noticed this besides me.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I enjoy the character. I think he
Oh yeah,
provides,
he's
enough
delightful.
extra comic relief, and it's a fun character, and it's used sparingly in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I get that, too much maybe in the next movie, for other people. I like him enough that I don't care.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, no, same.
so
More Korg, please and thank you.
yeah. But one last thing I want to mention is, it's a funny bit with Thor in, when he's captured, and he's before he meets the Grandmaster, he's in this chair and he's being, pushed through this tunnel of sorts, and he's being told about, Sakaar and the Grandmaster and
Mm-hmm.
everything like that. I love that it's playing the song from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh shoot! You know what?
Um,
I have never watched that movie all the way through because it scared the hell out of me as a kid.
yeah,
So I
it's
did
from the
not
boat
pick up
scene.
on that.
Yeah.
Oh no! Yeah, as soon as what's her face turns into a blueberry, I ran out of the room, and it was because it scared me, and I've never gone back.
That's so funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
during the boat scene, the song that Willy Wonka himself is sing. No, actually, I could be wrong. No. So I think the song in Thor they're playing is Pure Imagination, which is, a song in the movie, but it's not
Got you. Okay.
that sequence, but it's meant to evoke that sequence because it's, similar with the colors and the spinning and everything. So I just
Mm-hmm.
thought that was a fun uh, uh a fun little nod to that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, just everything in the chair, everything with Thor in the chair is great. With the Grandmaster and all of
Mm-hmm.
that is just such a fun sequence, that I had to mention that.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, that's fun. Um, if I may add a
Yeah,
couple of final random
yeah,
silly comments.
definitely.
Um, to clarify, I could not remember 100% if Clancy Brown was in Star Trek, but yes, he was in an episode of Star Trek Enterprise.
There you go.
Because again, I host on a Star Trek podcast. It will bother me if I don't get that right. Um, number two, here's a confession that I don't think I've made on a podcast.
Oh,
Um,
you heard it here first, folks.
yeah. So, one of my best buddies and she and I have this long-standing argument about the attractiveness of men with beards.
Okay.
And I'm very pro beard, and she is not very pro beard. I am also very pro men with long hair.
Okay.
And I think this is no small part due to my favorite band being in middle school being Hanson. But um, the scene where Stan Lee is the sadistic barber. Um, I saw Thor Ragnarok in the theater twice. I kid you not. Like as soon as Stan Lee comes on the scene and he starts to like spin the crazy daggers or whatever at Thor, and he's gonna cut his hair, I fell asleep almost immediately, and then I woke
Oh,
back up right before then, and I'm like, or right before he goes out to fight Hulk, and um I before rewatching the film today, before we recorded, I had never been awake for that scene. And I
oh
think it's
wow.
because my body like it's like, nope, you can't watch this, that he's gonna cut off his hair, blackout. So anyway, today is the very first time I've ever stayed awake through that scene.
That's so funny.
Yeah, and so kind of the joke was when we were having this argument, she and I host like a monthly like ladies movie night, and so we had a debate one night which Chris is the best Chris, and I was like, Chris Hemsworth, long hair plus beard, so Thor, the Dark World, the first half of Thor Ragnarok. And she's like, no, Chris Hemsworth, short hair. Like, ah. So I'm like, no, I black out every time Stan Lee cuts his hair. Like we can't have this. It's so bad. Anyway, I digress. It's something completely ridiculous, but I think it's I love a Stan Lee cameo.
Oh
no
yeah.
matter what it is, and I think that's definitely one of his funnier cameos.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think though, I think perhaps the most underrated is in Ant-Man and the Wasp, where he's like, well, the 60s were fun, but now I'm paying for it now. But man, anyway, yeah, so there was that. I think I feel like there was one other silly point of interest I wanted to comment on, but I don't remember what it was now. But yes, Thor Barbershop Blackout, new band name. Oh dear. Anything else that you wanted to touch on? Maybe that'll help.
I'm completely out. So unless you have anything else, we can wrap up.
I think I do want to say this idea that we get at the end of the film of, even if something's ending, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. It may quite literally be the end of the world, like Ragnarok is. Ragnarok is the end of Asgard as they know it. But as Odin says, Asgard is never a place; it's the people. I think that's a really cool idea, because I think we can get hung up on locations, we can get hung up on houses or spaces or other things in our lives, but ultimately what matters most are the people around us. And that, and again, it's this idea of family and caring for the people who are around you. And I think you have that it's a really wonderful idea that's explored. It's a meaningful idea that's explored in a very funny, comedic way, and yet is no less emotionally resonant by the end of the film.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, I think that, it's and in the original Norse mythology, around Ragnarok is not an ending. It is a renewal. It's kind of everything ends to begin fresh and new again. And so the gods themselves, while they go away for that cycle, they do return. And so it's interesting that it's just a cycle for them, that it's not truly an ending. And I think that kind of carries over into kind of the essence of the movie, like you said, that it's, yes, it's an ending of sorts, but it's a new beginning as well. And so I think that's, in a way that it's holding true to the very nature of what Ragnarok is. So I enjoy that aspect of it. So
may I make one more?
Sure.
Well, this is funny, silly addition. We didn't really touch on the Doctor Strange cameo right at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
I enjoyed watching Thor interact with Doctor Strange, but I think that I have been falling for 30 minutes. Was my favorite.
Yeah. No, the whole sequence. Yeah, I meant to touch on that, but yeah, it's that whole sequence with Doctor Strange is hilarious because he just keeps jerking Thor around, moving him, through the house, suddenly rather than having him walk, and Thor even goes, we could just walk. Is just hilarious. And then of course, 100%. Loki's been falling for 30 minutes is just hilarious
for sure.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. No, that was great. And Benedict Cumberbatch is just a delight anyway. So I'm always happy when he shows up. But I love like he's just like, nah, I'm not gonna deal with you guys today. You guys need to get out of my hair. Love that.
But yeah, no, it's a that all of this adds together to like is a reason why it's one of my very top favorites of the entire MCU. It's just so rewatchable, and just a lot of fun. I put it on a lot to just go to sleep to, just because it's just fun. It's just that rewatchable and accessible for me that it's like a little comfort blanket. So
Oh yeah, 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 for sure. Could definitely see that. It's a whole lot of fun. You have wonderful cast. You have great cameos. Even folks in like smaller parts are still, you still got these top notch actors in these roles, and you're gonna have a good time. You're gonna have a good time for sure.
oh yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, why don't you let people know where they can find you online?
All right. So many ways you can connect with me. You can first hit me up on Twitter because, as far as I'm concerned, it's still Twitter. You can hit me up on the tweets at the Nerdy Blogger. You can like my Facebook page, facebook.com/the Nerdy Blogger. You can read my words on my blog, nerdyblogging.wordpress.com. You can also read my words on fangirlish.com, where I write about film and television, mostly Star Trek. You can hear my words being read on the Sci-Fi 5 podcast, which is 5 minutes of science fiction history, 5 days a week. You can also hear me on a couple other podcasts, both on the We Made This podcast network. If you want to hear me talk about Marvel, you can listen to me and my fantastic co-host, Hugh McStay, on Podcast 616. That is podcast 616. You can also hear me on We Are Starfleet, which covers Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Strange New Worlds, as well as other Star Trek content. Again, both of those are on the We Made This podcast network, which you can find on wemadethispodcast.com. You can also find me on Mastodon at the Nerdy Blogger at mastodon.social. And you can also find me on Blue Sky. I'm at the Nerdy Blogger there. I don't remember what the other end of the Blue Sky handle is, but most of my socials, I'm at the Nerdy Blogger. So.
All right.
I think awesome. Those are all my things, Robert. So,
well, I mean, if they can't find you, if hopefully they can find you at one of those, and they can find all the other stuff for you there as well.
You know what? I need to do what Kurt North has done on the Make It So podcast, and she's like, here's my link tree. Like,
yeah,
so smart, dude. I love it.
That's what I do. I bought a domain. I am geekthulu.com.
Love
and it just redirects to my link tree, which has all my links. Mm-hmm. So
amazing.
But yeah, nice and easy.
Yeah.
So all right. Well, I appreciate you coming on again. Thank you very much. I hope I'll have you on again here pretty soon.
Yeah, dude. Thank you for having me on. Happy to talk about creepy and or geeky things. So exactly. I know we've had some fun on the Discord talking about me catching up on my horror gaps. So
oh yeah,
been a good time.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you again.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks again to Ashley for joining me. Next week on Monday, it's my 2nd anniversary episode and the finale of my Saw series. My daughter Katrina returns to help me celebrate the occasion. And on Friday, Donna is back in the MCU for a look at the Black Panther. Thanks for listening. Creepy and Geeky is a part of the Morbidly Beautiful podcast network. Please check out morbidlybeautiful.com/podcasts for more great shows. If you like what you've heard, please consider giving the show 5 stars and a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, please share the podcast on social media to help spread the word. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app or at creepyandgeeky.com. Music for the podcast is Gratitude, composed by Jerry Smith. You can follow the podcast on social media at Creepy and Kiki on both Twitter and Instagram. If you'd like to follow me, I'm Geek Thulu on Twitter and Blue Sky, and geek.thulu on Instagram. You can support the podcast by ordering teas and more on TeePublic or by donating to the coffee page. All of the links are in the show notes. Finally, don't forget, stay creepy.